Hello and welcome to another episode of Productivity Mastery. My name is Carl Pullein, and in this week's episode I want to help you organize your projects for 2019. Now the reason I want to do this is because I know that many of us are full of enthusiasm, really excited about 2019, and we're often thinking to ourselves, 2019 is going to be the year when I make my breakthrough. It's going to be the year that I get all these projects done. But we do have a tiny little problem. And that problem is there are only 365 days in which to do all these projects. And if you're going to do a good job on each of those projects, you need to allocate enough days in order to do those projects. So how many projects can you realistically do in 12 months or in 365 days? Now, a principle that I follow is that any major project is going to take at least 6 weeks to do. So if we divide the year up into 6 weeks, we end up with something around about the region of about 8 or 9 projects that we can do. But the thing is, we cannot really be working one project, finish, next project, finish, next project, finish. When you do that, there's no time for a break. And of course, we do need a break between projects, and we also need our vacation time. So instead of trying to cram in as many projects as you want, what you need to do is, if you're following my system for planning 2019, you can go back to your list and select 6, and I say, repeat that one, 6 major projects that you want to get done next year. Now what you do is you divide the year up into 8 weeks. So you create 6 times 8 weeks for the whole of the year. Now that actually gives you 4 weeks free, because that comes to somewhere in the region of about 48 weeks. In fact, it does come to 48 weeks, and as there's 52 weeks in the year, that gives you 4 weeks of flexibility. Now, what do we do in those 8 weeks? Now, the idea is when you're doing a project, each project should only take you 6 weeks. You create a timeline for that, and you can plan out when you're going to do each section of the project. So what you essentially have is you do the project for 6 weeks, and then you give yourself a 2-week break between finishing the project and starting your new project. Now, what do you do in that 2 weeks? You could, of course, take a vacation. Good idea. Or you can just get on with those other tiny little bits that you want to get done in between projects. You may want to spend a little bit of time planning. Whatever you want to do, that's your flexibility time. That 2 weeks is your flexibility time. As soon as you finish those 2 weeks, let's get on with the second project, and the third, and the fourth. But when you restrict yourself to just choosing 6 projects for the year, the benefit to this is it really focuses your mind on which projects are truly important to you. And that is the key. When you allow yourself freedom, complete freedom, to choose whatever you want to do, we end up trying to cram in too many things. This is like the dilemma that companies often find. If you offer you too many choices, most people end up buying nothing. If I offer you just 2 choices, they will choose black or white or pink or red or whatever. They will just choose one of them, and there's an increased likelihood that you would buy. It's one of those weird phenomenons. So the idea is the rule is you cannot start another project until you have finished the first project. So let's say January the 1st, you start with your first project. And I'll give you a really good example with this. Next year, I intend to write another book. I love writing books. Now, writing a book is, to me, a big project, and I need about 6 weeks, strangely enough, to write the first draft. An average length of a book is about 60,000 to 80,000 words, so I need about 6 weeks of concentrated effort to write 60 to 80,000 words in a book. Now, the problem is, of course, when you're writing a book, there's an editing system to do, an editing process to do, and I need to do the editing. So the way I have done this, and I did this 2 years ago when I wrote Your Digital Life 2.0, is January the 1st to February the 15th, I was on focus time to write the first draft of the book. I then just stopped. That was it. Project done. I also had scheduled in my calendar to start the editing process round about August time. So I think it was August the 1st I started the editing process, and between August the 1st and 15th of September I did the editing. It was great. I had allowed enough time to do both the writing and the editing, and I managed to get the book launched in December. I think it was 2 years ago. Oh, a year ago actually the book came out. So that is the process that I do. So although the book, you could argue, is one project, and technically it is, but to me there's two projects involved in that. There's writing the book and there's editing the book, and both needed doing, so I divided that as two projects. It was two of my big projects for the year. There are many other things like writing an online course, preparing an online course, for example. Actually, strange enough, again, it takes 6 weeks. It takes about 2 weeks of planning. It takes about 2 weeks of actually setting out the curriculum, and about 2 weeks of recording and editing. So it works out at 6 weeks. What you'll find is that any project, any big project that you want to work on next year will take you about 6 weeks. So the key here is divide your year up into 6 times 8 week sections. Now, what I do is I leave the last 4 weeks of the year free, because it means I can drag them in at any time. If I want to take a 2-week summer vacation, I can borrow those 2 weeks from there and move them to August or whenever I take the vacation. But the beauty of doing it this way is it really does restrict your choices, and it stops you from trying to accomplish too much. When you try to accomplish too much, the quality of your work goes down, and the feeling of stress and overwhelm goes up. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So focus on 6 projects and be determined to set them up. One more thing before we finish this is, except for your first project, which you will start on January the 1st, all the other projects can be moved around at any time. You can look at it and think, well, I don't really want to start that project now until late summer, or I don't want to start that project until the autumn, but I would like to start that project in the spring. You can move them around at any time. Just the golden rule is, once you get started on a project, you are all in to get it finished by whatever timeline you're on, to get it finished within those 6 weeks. Okay, I hope this has been useful for you. I hope this has given you a little bit of food for thought as you're preparing for 2019, because I promise you guys, I genuinely want you to have the best year you could possibly have. And the best way to do that is to just pass on all the advice, all the experience that I've had over the years that's helped me to become super, super productive. Thank you very much for watching this episode. It just remains for me now to wish you all a very, very productive week. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked what you saw and you would like to learn more about becoming better organized and more productive, then get yourself enrolled in my free beginner's guide to creating your own COD system. And if you'd like to learn more about how I can help you, then visit my website at carlpullein.com. All the details are in the show notes below.